Yo, Exiles, welcome to my first video, a Zero to Hero challenge. This idea always seemed really fun, but also really daunting. For a casual player like me, it felt like you had to be online at all times and be there for your jackpot selling to make any fast progress. However, with the introduction of the currency exchange in 3.25, that has changed. The ability to convert playtime directly into currency actually lets you formulate a plan and invest real effort into a build, instead of hopping from character to character like I normally do, trying to find something that felt good right away so I know I wasn't wasting my own time. Now, saying that, I knew I wouldn't be able to change years of playing habits, so I wanted to start with a few small, simple goals, instead of a silly one like all content killer. Firstly, I wanted this to be a really fast mapper that could just blast through any map I put it in, just for speedy clears. Secondly, I wanted it to be near immortal. More specifically, for my purposes, was to be able to tank the Exile ball phase. Just with being able to stand still, not have to move at all, just because I absolutely hate that phase. And I thought this would be a fun way to get over that. Thirdly, this was going to be an Ignite-based character that focused primarily on explosion proliferation to clear the maps. And then lastly, auras are like one of my favourite things in Path of Exile. I love like the mana management and just like squeezing as many as you can into the build you're playing. With that in mind, I decided on an auto bomb Earthquake Ignite character, mainly just for Vaal Earthquake and a phase run setup, just so I could kill the first pack, get enough souls for Vaal Earthquake, and then just auto run through the map, killing everything. As part of my initial currency plan to actually get myself to be able to complete this challenge, it was a 3-pronged atlas that focused on fast returns that could be flipped on the exchange immediately, or that sold really quickly on PoE trade. So no long-term investments. And the basis of that was Betrayal, just for Gravicious, jackpots. Because those, either I would get a good item out of it that would sell quickly, or I would get something I could use myself, or I would just get div cards that I could just flip on the exchange quick and easy. Secondly was Blight. Blight is essentially gear immune content, so as soon as you load it up, all you need to do is get to the passive node on the Atlas, that just makes your towers deal 300% more damage, and then you just spam sentries along with the ring enchant and it'll just play itself. Blighted maps are really easy as well. Again, you just spam sentries and it just plays itself, and at the end you get loot explosions and lots of oils to sell, because all the ones above uncommon sell for anywhere from like 1 to 5C each, and then silver and above are anywhere from like 50C to a divine or something like that. So yeah, really fast, really easy money. And then lastly was Ritual, the most feast or famine mechanic in the game, literally just for jackpots, hoping to sort of speed up the acquisition of currency through hopefully some big ticket items. And then it was just delve and shrines, just for mapping speed initially. On this character, I actually completed the campaign. I think my fastest clear ever. I did forget to check my played, but the total recordings for all the initial parts were around 9 hours, which did include some AFK time. So I think this took around 8 to 8.5 hours, which for me is exceedingly fast for what I've ever done, because I usually take around 20 hours, because I usually select skills that are really quite bad in the campaign that actually need gear. Now that the campaign was completed, I had around 20-25C to spend. I did make some purchases during the campaign, which was a Carnage Heart and a La Hoop of All, just for attributes and resistances. I also did buy a Beric's Respite and Deity and Dawn in preparation for my Ignite swap. And then I decided to get a Murklab out of the way just as quickly as possible, just so I didn't have to worry about it at a later date. And then I went on to make my first post-campaign purchase, which was a simple 6-link, which I spammed with the cheapest essence that would give me 100 life on it. And then I spent, it was around 5C just to get to the one I wanted. And then I did manage to end up with something relatively decent for the time. It was literally, like I said, just life, resistances. There was a decent bit of regen, and then I just crafted on armor and evasion percentage just for more defense. I did a few maps after this and realised that I also needed to upgrade my weapon, so I checked out trade and found this, which was 2C, and a huge upgrade for me. Ended up doubling my tooltip DPS from around 30,000 to 60,000, so that ended up making the next 20 levels a lot quicker. At this point, I decided to stick with Sunder until level 90 to simulate a slower league start. I also basically gave myself a varying amount of Atlas points per level because I wasn't really focused on fully completing the Atlas on this character. I just wanted to specifically get 2 T16s and blast them. So I decided to wait until 75 for Uberlab, which I did. And then I also got my first Divine while just blasting these maps to 90. I did almost miss it, but thankfully I decided to run back and I did spot it in the end. I get to level 90 here. Like I said, that was my next goal, was to just get my Atlas fully filled out and then hopefully start getting enough currency to transition over to Ignite. As you can see, I do quite suddenly change to Ignite here. This is unfortunately due to 2 mistakes I made. The first one was due to a recording error. I had a keybind that I didn't realise until later was turning my recording on and off randomly, so I lost a large amount of recordings. And then the second error, which is a much larger one unfortunately, was this Watch As I sale. This Watch As I sold for 50 divines, as you can see, and this was not gotten by me in this challenge. This was in a stash that I forgot to empty, so I completely unfortunately invalidated the challenge here because I did spend these. This was like one of my biggest sales ever, so I was quite excited, so I didn't really realise at the time. I was sort of just, playing instead of recording. So I did spend this on gear. I did lose a lot of footage of actual gear checks, but from this clip here, you can see the helm, gloves, and boots are suppress life and chaos resistance, just to try and sort out my big problems. A new amulet is Defiance of Destiny. That is a 6-link Cloak of Defiance and a Martyr of Innocence. All of this costs around 20 divines ish. And as for my spending on the jewels for this, these are around 20 divines in total. So it was a Storm Shroud, a Elegant Hubris, specifically with a Slumlord passive node, just so I could scale it with Spiritual Aid. This Watch As I, which was originally a Green Nightmare for Suppress, but I realised I just couldn't get enough to make this really worthwhile, to make the Green Nightmare worthwhile, so I swapped to this, which really helped. A Firelight of Meaning, just for, just flat damage scaling, really nice. This Thread of Hope, which let me allocate Spiritual Aid, the Slumlord, and also the large life node in the Templar starting area. And then these cluster jewels, this for Malevolence efficiency, this for Purity of Fire efficiency, and then this just for the Master of Fire, which just exposes things around you to fire in combo with this 18% affected resistance. I then spent the remaining divines on beaches. Basically, I would buy around 30 at a time, and then just run them with this harvest tree. It just blocked everything except for harvest. Had some map sustain, and then it was shrines, scarabs, lock boxes, strong boxes, and then just explicit effect of the map modifiers for increased quantity of life force and monsters on the map. Each stack of 30 would take around an hour to do, and at the end of it I would get anywhere between 3 and 4 divines. On my first clear out of beaches, and my first sale of the life force to the exchange, like a light bulb sort of clicked in my head, and when I saw, the fully geared out character and then the leftover divines, and I don't know what it was, something just clicked in my head, and I realised what I'd done with the Watcher's Eye. And I did lose a little bit of motivation at this point to continue the build, because it felt as though I cheated, and it felt a bit. Something just felt a bit off, and it wasn't really something that was like that interesting anymore to me because of it. The DPS was absolutely god awful, but it was sort of doing what I wanted. I could tank most things, and with enough mobs, it could kill anything. However, obviously therein lied the problem. In the background, you can see this pirate boss kill took 8 minutes. So yeah, it wasn't fast at bossing whatsoever. Barracks of Smite was really great for maps where just having the big juicy ignites just go from pack to pack, really speeding things up. I did try Val Breach. It was okay. It wasn't 100% reliable, but it usually did help. There were some cool moments. I didn't actually realise you could get 2 unique harvest bosses in a single grove, so got lucky on those and just exploded both of them, which was pretty fun. So I was actually going to end the series here after the mistake with the Watcher's Eye and losing quite a lot of footage of me getting currency for more upgrades from Harvest. It kind of just felt right to sort of end it where it was, because like I said, I missed a gear swap to Petrified Blood, which did resolve my issue with getting just sort of worn down over time, and made me immune to the majority of like random small hits. Didn't quite fix my one shot issue, unfortunately, but in an effort to aid that, I swapped over to a Formless Flame as well, to scale my armor with my fire resistance, which basically got me to around 50% reduction without flasks, and then with flasks up, a lot of the small hits I could now ignore, and I was no longer able to be whittled down. Then something strange happened. I was running my final maps that I accrued over the time, and one of them actually just so happened to be a defiled cathedral, and in that map I managed to drop an apothecary, as you can see. And at this point, when I say I had done a lot of harvest, I meant it. I had around 60 divines in total across my stash, so some of that was raw, some of that was like pre-liquidated. So I sort of had a choice, either stop here or like try and finish this to see where I could take it. So basically I decided to not do anything with the apothecary. I just put it in my stash and left it to sort of equalise the playing field for the mistake I'd made earlier. And then I decided to liquidate everything, and I I dropped another Storm Shroud. I dropped around 5 Einhar Beast memories, and then a bunch of expensive scarabs, and I ended up with 63 divines and 744 chaos in total after I liquidated literally everything. And now for my final setup here. So the basic plan for this was to stabilize my DPS and make myself much tankier than I was before. I already mentioned that I swapped over to Formless Flame for armor stacking, which resolved my small hit problems. But then I realised that Martyr of Innocence just was not even remotely good enough for what I needed it to be. It was always meant to be a like a budget option, like an in between. But I never really got that far in my head. So I went back to basics in how you scale Ignite, and one of the easiest ways is Fizz's Extra. So that's what this scepter's for. It's perfect in every way, except obviously everything's relatively low tier, but it was cheap and exactly what I was looking for. I swapped over to Dawnbreaker as well, twofold. Obviously, the Taken As added a huge amount of defenses to this. I think this went from around 100,000 to just putting it on and not having set anything up. I think it went to around 300,000, which was absolutely gigantic. This also let me change away from Earthquake, which with this just wasn't enough to get me where I needed to be. So I swapped over to Shield Charge. Specifically, this was because Shield Charge on its gem has a lot of fizz, and then it gets further scaling from armor, and obviously 2,000 armor. It's by 15, so that's what, something 200, 250 ish additional flat, which with the full 90% conversion I got from these gloves and the extra means I now have a really strong base of Ignite. So up here it does say 484,000. However, it is the Ignite over its full duration is 3 million. So anything I was passing through was just dying within a few seconds and then exploding and proliferating. And then I think lastly, the only other thing that's changed was Progenesis to shore up my Chaos Res, and then Profane Proxy to completely automate flammability, and then just these two enlightens, these level 4 enlightens, so I could fit in Herald of Ash again. I then made this Atlas to run on Defiled Cathedral, to get a Nameless Seer to spawn, so I could scry the cards onto Toxic Sewers, which would be my final map. Nameless Seer will apparently spawn when the final mob of any native pack dies. And one of the only ways that I know to spawn more native mobs is shrines. So basically I just grabbed all the shrine nodes for Domination Scarabs and crafted on more shrines with Kirak, and then just went for the explicits just for bigger pack size, and then Delve just for speed, and strong boxes and scarabs just for any jackpots just before the end. The basis for the Atlas for my final Toxic Sewer runs were to block everything except Delirium, because I wanted to just stay in the map and run it. It was strong boxes, because they're just super strong right now, really profitable. Shrines just for speed, and magic packs. It was enhanced Eater altars. It was explicit effect of map modifiers, Delirium, Beyond, but without the boss, just because they never drop anything, and they can be really annoying if they don't get exploded, which did happen a few times in a couple of the maps I ran with this. And yeah, that was it. It was literally just those things. And this made these maps extremely rippy, even with this build. And here are some of the highlights for the final 30 runs of Toxic Sewer. In the end, the actual scarabs I ended up using were a scarab of monstrous lineage, a divination scarab of plenty, influencing scarab of hordes, ambush scarabs, and domination scarabs. This was basically just to force more magic mobs onto the map. Like I said, Strongbots is really good right now, so that was just an addition. And then it was increasing the size and loot of magic packs for shrine spamming and altar spamming, just to get hopefully as much loot from the maps as possible. In total I did around 30 Toxic Sewers. Actual in-game time was about 2 hours, but play time was about an hour because I kept having to stop every now and again. I'm happy to say that I actually think I hit all the goals for the character on this one. It can do all map types. No regen and reduced regen do suck, but they are doable as long as I keep moving. I did have some huge Ignite Prolifs, as you're seeing, and those are just super fun to see these like big snaky explosions just move around Toxic Sewers and basically do the map for you. I did manage to tank Exile ball phase. That clip will be coming up in a moment. And in addition to that, I did manage to fit 8 auras into the build, which I think was pretty good for this. Nothing ever felt too stretched thin. I never had problems with casting my abilities, so I think this was the perfect amount of auras for this one. A few downsides: the build can't do T17s. The maps themselves are usually fine, but the bosses are just near impossible. I did do a Valdos at one point that had the Twisted spawned on it. One of them died due to Prolif, and I didn't see the rest, and I just assumed they had died as well. But then at the end, when I didn't get the cash for the item, I went and looked around, and I found all 3 of them stuck together on a rock. And that took me 47 minutes to clear, unfortunately. So yeah, this just cannot do anything that requires any kind of DPS. Exile also took 28 minutes, so there was that. So yeah, this was just not a bosser, but that wasn't what the goal of this one was. So I'm still happy with it. Was functionally immortal, like I said, except for mobs that could just completely bypass defenses. I would still get one shot sometimes, but it was exceedingly rare. I would say I overspent on almost every piece of gear for this challenge, and I definitely could do a bit better if I used a bit of crafting next time I do this. All in all, this was a super fun experience. I don't think this was a particularly original build. It's just more like an amalgamation of all like the information I've sort of gathered over my years of playing Path of Exile. But it is a build that I did from start to finish on my own, without using PoE Ninja or creators or anything like that. So I was pretty happy with the outcome for this. I think next time I do this, if it's not a league start, I will most likely just use a different account, because keeping track of everything and making those mistakes with the sales of things I miss was just really frustrating. Here is just the what I actually gathered from the maps that I thought was worth it. From Wealthy Exile, this stash tab was worth around 21 divines. So I think for total playtime around 1 hour, total completion time around 1 hour, 21 divines is actually pretty good. So I'd say this is probably a decent strategy just for cheap, because it costs around 5 divines to put together. So it was around a 16 divine profit, which is pretty nice. And like I said, here is the the Exarch Ball tank phase. This is not Uber. This is just regular Exarch. Iridescent invitation, nothing special, but I still did it. Final thoughts. I'm really looking forward to Settlers Remix, and I can't wait to try this again. I am going to be recording a actual Zero to Hero when the league resets, and I really hope that I can make a decent attempt at a real Zero to Hero, where I actually do majority of the content instead of just part of it with a single goal. I hope I'll be able to get around and do all of it. Anyway, please check out the clip here for the fate of the Apothecary card. And that's just about right. Thanks for watching. Like, sub, and if you want more, and comment about stuff you think I can do better. See you next time, Exiles.